All right, so we had a few others join. So I'm going to go through, it's such a small group, I'm just going to go through the slides and then ask for questions on each concept. That way we can tailor this to what you need, since there's only a handful of us. So looking at Blackboard, we are, most of you know why we use Blackboard, but some folks choose not to, which is fine. And so if you're new to Blackboard, or if you just haven't done some of this stuff this semester, this is basically what we're saying you can do really at any time, but in a remote teaching environment specifically. Everything from centralizing your instructional materials to building out your grade book, and of course assessments, tests, quizzes, papers, all those types of things. And we have other web-based tools built in as well, so Poll Everywhere and Panopto and things like that. So this will give you an idea of what Blackboard does if you haven't been in there in a while. Give you some basics, but then from here on out, after this, you can request a one-on-one or go to one of our other tutorial sites to get more information. So here's basically the 6 things we're going to cover today, and I'll cover them in this order, but this way you know if you have questions when you can ask them. And again, with such a small number, you can either type it into the chat and Jessica can interrupt me whenever is good, or you can speak out if you like, since there's only about 5 of us. That's not a big deal. So here's our 6 topics. And away we go. And I realize some of you might already know some of this stuff, so bear with us. But basically, the Blackboard course generator is where everyone starts, no matter who you are on campus and what you're doing. And if you want something done in Blackboard, you got to make sure you have a course that's going to hold that something. So the Blackboard course generator is where you would start. You create new courses there, you combine sections. Most of the time, this is done at the beginning of the year, but it can really be done anytime. So if you don't typically use Blackboard, this is a good time to jump in there and do it. The Blackboard course generator is right when you log into Blackboard, you'll see it on the top page. You just click on it and it walks you through the steps pretty easily. Now, if you're an instructor that has multiple sections, you need to be careful that you do these one at a time, because you might combine sections if you don't want to. So once you're logged in, click on the institution page, go to Blackboard Course Generator, and then you will see an option like this. From there, you check the course that you want and then hit Create Blackboard Course, and it will show up on your course dashboard. Now, we got a little bit of a makeover in Blackboard a few months ago, so your course dashboard looks different. So instead of a list of titles, you see these blocks, and usually they have these banner images. One of the first things you can do is make the course private, so it's not ready for if it's not ready for students to see, and that option is right on the top page there for each course. That means you can build your course and play with it and not have to worry about students getting in and seeing things that they're not ready to see or that you would not like them to see just yet. So you can always keep it private until it's ready. Same thing within a course. Everything you do inside of Blackboard can be hidden very easily. Beside every menu option, you see this little caret here or chevron. You click on that, you say hide link, and then you'll see that the checkbox next to it now has a line through it. That means nobody can see it except for you or your fellow instructors. So I use this a lot. In fact, I'll show you in a minute what a good course menu looks like, in my opinion. I hide a lot of my course menu when I start a new course because I don't use all the tools. So it's a good trick to hide the things that you're not using. Typically, courses will be available to you and your students within about 3 hours after you create it, sometimes sooner. But again, most of you may have already created their course, just not used it much. And so hopefully that won't be an issue. All right, now this is something that you want to consider pretty carefully if you are new to teaching online or remote teaching, which many of us are. It's good to organize your content a little differently than is the suggested way when you make a course. So you'll notice here that Blackboard's course menu provides users access to the course content, but the menu items and the order in which they appear are customizable, and they can be arranged. So you can customize your menu and the order in which things take place. Now, you can't do anything in Blackboard without making sure you're in edit mode. So see this right here? So depending on what your last setting was, when you log in, you may or may not be in edit mode. So before you start changing anything in your menu or reorganizing, turn edit mode on. So when it comes to customizing your course menu, oops, I'm going to back up one. One thing we like to show, and I'm going to talk more about this in a minute, is you can organize your course content by topic or maybe by week and create what we call modules. And this is a great way to organize. Think about this as class sessions or a week's worth of classes. You organize content, so there's not one big long list of all your content. But if you break it into chunks that make sense, it's really helpful for the learner and for you to navigate. So I'll show you that in just a minute. You can also customize your menu. So that's that left-hand black bar in Blackboard. And you can add menu items. You can take away menu items. You have the option to customize this. You just hit that plus icon right here and choose what you want. So you can add a Panopto link. You can add a blank page. You can put web links in that students can all access within the course. You can drag and drop and reorder these things. So anything that has a double-headed arrow will allow you to go up and down. And so you can just drag your menu items up and down to put it in the order that you'd like. And again, it's just kind of organizational preference. So here's an example from a recent course that it was a condensed course. It was only 5 weeks, which is about what we have left in this semester. And what we recommended was just number the weeks 1 through 5. And so this is an example of the modular approach. Each week or topic, you could have topic 1 through 5, has the dates next to it. And then within that module, students would click on it and they would see the menu of items that they're supposed to review. We always start with a little intro and what the objectives are for that week, and then list out what they're going to do. So this idea of adding a very specific menu of directions for each module or each week is really helpful for learners. And so this is a great example of how to do that. Now, if you decide to do this, you want to make sure it makes sense. So one of the ways we say to make sense of it is to use the same numbering system in every menu item. So for example, here is a week 1 agenda from a recent course that we worked on. And a simple way to let people know what to do is just to list in the agenda what they should do according to how they're going to do it. So read this, view that, participate, submit. These are examples that you could use. Now you'll notice beside everything that you want your students to encounter, there's a number. And the number has a decimal because that means week 1, step 1, week 1, step 2. And so it's the order of events that you are suggesting they go through that. So I have this listed in the intro page for the week, and we have it listed in the content page. So if you've ever added content to Blackboard before, you get to pick the title. So if you have content in week 1 and it's step 1, it can be 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, etc. If you keep that numbering and organization system consistent throughout the whole portion of weeks that you're going to be teaching online, that's going to be much easier for you and for your students to be organized. All right, so let's talk for just a minute about adding content. And then I'll take a few questions before we get into creating assignments. So all content is added pretty much the same way. You're just going to go to your section that you want to add content, whether it's an assignment page or it's a new content page, and you're just going to click the Build Content. Oftentimes what you're adding is an item or a file. So if you have a picture or you have a reading or a PDF, you can do that here. Or you could pick the type of file that it is, audio, image, or video, and add it that way. If you pick video, it's going to give you the option of picking something right from your Panopto file. Panopto is our video storage and delivery service. So if you create a video of a small lecture or a demonstration, you'll do that in Panopto and it gets stored in your Panopto folder, and you can link it here just by adding a video. You can do this in pretty much any content area. Sometimes if you're in a different menu item, you won't see this button, but if you don't see it, that means you're not in a content area, so you can get yourself in the right place. And again, you can create content areas by adding them up here with the plus sign. All right, let's talk for just a few minutes about the different types of assignments. There's all kinds of creative assignments you can make. You know, during this unusual time, we urge you to keep it as simple as possible. So the easiest way to collect assignments and papers or files of any kind from your students is to create an assignment in Blackboard. With assignments, you can create coursework and manage the grades and feedback for each student separately. You can create assignments in content areas or in learning modules, lesson plans, and folders. And so here's how you do that. You're going to click the assessment and click assignment as your option in any content area. From there, you're going to fill out some assignment information. Now, only you see this to start with because it's not published to your class. So from the assessment menu, click assignment and then provide the name, the instructions. You can add them yourself, and maybe any files that they need. So if there's additional files like a rubric or a reading or a sample, you can add them there in this functions editor right here outlined in purple. By the way, in the Blackboard mobile app, if you're that kind of person, the assignment instructions for courses show after students begin the attempt. So if you know your students are operating on a mobile phone, just make sure they know that the instructions will show once they go into the assignment. All right, so from there, you're going to browse and go to your computer and upload any files that they may need. This file is saved on the top level of your course repository, and so it's in your course from there on out if you need to reference it. Optionally, you can select due dates, which is probably a good idea. And due dates automatically show on the course calendar and in the to-do module for your students. And it will tell you if you have a specific due date. If a student turns something in late, you know it because it gets marked as late. If you don't want students to access an assignment after the due date, you can make sure you have an end date as well. So the due date is pretty helpful in making sure you're on track and your students are on track. Another option is to add a rubric. I don't know if that box is showing on this one, but there is a box to add a rubric. Rubrics are built in Blackboard, or if you just have a rubric on a Word file, you can include that in the Files section. You can also check whether you want students to allow more than one attempt. Be careful with that one, but I do tend to do that myself because students will accidentally upload the wrong file or upload it early or something like that, and then they can't put up the right one. So I usually allow more than one attempt, but then I'll cut off with the due date to make sure they're not uploading late. Lastly, you want to make sure the assignment is available when your students and ready when your students can access it. So select the appropriate options for availability and display dates, and don't worry because it won't display until the display date if you put in that option. Finally, you'll click submit and your assignment is created. It also creates a Blackboard column. So here is a handy way to think about the cycle in Blackboard for assessments. So you as the instructor have all the control here. So you create the assessment, and that's by adding the assignment, just like I showed you with that menu. You click all your options. You then deploy the assessment by making sure that it has appropriate due dates and that it is activated in the assignment category. Students then do the assignment, submit the work. You can grade in Blackboard. So even if it's a paper or something like that, Blackboard will display the file that they upload, and you can add comments and annotations right there in Blackboard. But yeah, we just want you to know that we do have very short, very specific tutorials, like a minute or less, on all of these on our instructional resilience help site, which is keepteaching.wm.edu. So if any of these things seem daunting, just go to keepteaching.wm.edu, and you can find a tutorial that will illustrate how to do all of these steps. Because we know if you're not familiar with Blackboard, it is not the most familiar, friendly tool. This is an example of what that tutorial will look like. I'm not going to play this right now, but they're all about a minute long. You can watch this thing about creating a test if you're thinking about doing a test or a quiz. and they're really, really helpful. So that's keepteaching.wm.edu.